The rain pounded the field, each drop a cold slap against Eli Carter's face as he stood frozen. The roar of the crowd fading into a dull hum. His cleats sank into the mud, anchoring him to the spot where Coach Callahan had just delivered the blow. "You're benched, Carter. We can't have distractions." Eli's heart thundered louder than the storm. Distractions. That's what his truth had become. 2 days ago, in a small-town Ohio locker room, he'd told his team he was gay. The words had clawed their way out, raw and unyielding. After years of hiding, he'd hoped for acceptance, maybe even a nod of understanding from the guys he'd bled with on this field for 3 seasons. Instead, silence had followed, then whispers, sidelong glances, and now this. Benched. The star wide receiver. Sidelined not for missed catches or blown plays, but for who he was. The whistle blew, sharp and final, signaling practice's end. Eli's teammates jogged past, their eyes averted, their cleats splashing through puddles. He wanted to scream, to demand they look at him, but his voice caught in his throat. Only one figure lingered on the sidelines: Jake Monroe, the team's quarterback and Eli's best friend since freshman year. Jake's broad shoulders slumped under his pads, his hazel eyes locked on Eli with an unreadable intensity. They'd shared everything: late-night talks, game-winning plays, secrets. But not this. Not until now. "Eli," Jake called, his voice low but steady, cutting through the rain. "You good?" Eli forced a laugh, bitter and sharp. "Good. I'm a liability now. Apparently." He turned away, wiping rain or maybe tears from his face. The weight of the past 48 hours pressed down harder than the storm. Coming out had felt like freedom for a fleeting moment, like shedding a skin that never fit. But the fallout. His parents' strained smiles. His coach's clipped words. The team's cold distancing was a different kind of cage. Jake stepped closer, his cleats squelching in the mud. "Callahan's an idiot," he said, his voice rough with something Eli couldn't place: anger. Maybe. Or guilt. "This isn't over." Eli shook his head, staring at the field where he'd once felt invincible. "It's done, Jake. They don't want me here." He didn't mean just the team. Mill Creek, Ohio, wasn't exactly a beacon of progress. The town's heartbeat was football, church, and tradition. In that order. Eli had known the risks of coming out, but he'd hoped foolishly. Maybe that his talent, his hustle, his loyalty would outweigh the whispers. He'd been wrong. Jake grabbed his shoulder, his grip firm. "You're not done. We're not done." His eyes burned with a fierceness that made Eli's chest ache. For a moment, the rain seemed to pause, the world narrowing to just them. Jake had always been the one constant in Eli's life, the one who'd pass him the ball in clutch moments, who'd laugh off Eli's worst days with a grin and a bad joke. But now, Eli wasn't sure what Jake saw when he looked at him. The next day, the locker room was a minefield. Eli kept his head down, shoving his gear into his bag, ignoring the murmurs that followed him like shadows. Freak. Why'd he have to say it? Coach is right, team first. The word stung, but not as much as the silence from the guys he'd called brothers. He was almost out the door when Ryan, the team's hulking linebacker, blocked his path. "You think you're special now?" Ryan's voice was a low growl, his arms crossed. You're tearing us apart. Carter. Eli's fists clenched. But before he could respond, Jake was there, stepping between them. Back off. Ryan. Jake said, his tone icy. You got a problem. Take it up with me. Ryan scoffed, but didn't push further. The room went quiet, the tension thick enough to choke on. Eli didn't wait to see what happened next. He shoved past, his heart racing, and didn't stop until he was outside, the cold air biting his lungs. Jake caught up to him in the parking lot. You didn't have to do that, Eli said, his voice tight. I can handle Ryan. Jake's jaw tightened. You shouldn't have to. Not alone. He hesitated, then added, meet me tonight. The old quarry. We need to talk. Eli frowned. The quarry was their spot, a place they'd gone since high school to escape, first with stolen beers, then with dreams of college scholarships and NFL scouts. But Jake's tone was different now. Urgent. Almost desperate. What's this about? Eli asked. Just be there, Jake said, his eyes holding Eli's for a moment too long before he turned away. That night, under a sky bruised with stars, Eli drove to the quarry. The gravel crunched under his tires, the sound echoing in the stillness. Jake was already there, leaning against his truck, his silhouette sharp against the moonlight. Eli's stomach twisted, not just from nerves, but from something deeper, something he'd buried for years. Jake had always been more than a friend, but Eli had never dared name it. Not until now, when everything else was falling apart. Eli, Jake started, his voice softer than usual. I've been thinking. About you. About the team. He paused, running a hand through his hair. I'm not letting you go through this alone. But there's something I need to tell you. Eli's breath caught. Jake's words hung in the air, heavy with unspoken truths. Whatever came next, Eli knew it would change everything again. Jake's words lingered in the quarry's quiet, each syllable a stone dropped into the still water of Eli's thoughts. The night air was crisp, carrying the faint scent of pine and damp earth, and Eli's heart pounded as he waited. Jake paced a few steps, his boots crunching gravel, his usual confidence replaced by something raw, almost fragile. I've known for a while, Jake said finally, his voice barely above a whisper. About you. I mean, I suspected. The way you'd dodge questions about girls. The way you'd light up when we'd talk late at night. He stopped, facing Eli, his eyes catching the moonlight. I didn't say anything because I was scared. Scared of what it meant for you. For me. For us. Eli's throat tightened. He'd spent years hiding his feelings for Jake, burying them under friendship, under the weight of Mill Creek's expectations. To hear Jake acknowledge it, even indirectly, was like a dam breaking. What are you saying, Jake? Eli asked, his voice rough. You knew and didn't care. Or you knew and didn't want to deal with it. Jake flinched, as if the words were a physical blow. I care, Eli. More than you know. He took a step closer, close enough that Eli could see the tension in his jaw, the way his hands trembled slightly. I'm saying I've been a coward. I let you face this alone coming out, dealing with coach, the team. I should have been there from the start. Eli's chest ached. caught between hope and disbelief. "You're here now?" he said, the words cautious. "Testing." "But why? What's changed?" Jake looked away, toward the quarry's dark water, his breath visible in the cold. "I'm tired of pretending," he said. "Pretending I don't see you. Really see you. Pretending I don't," he stopped, the words catching. Eli's pulse raced, the unspoken hanging between them like a live wire. Before Eli could respond, headlights sliced through the darkness. A truck pulled up, its engine rumbling, and Ryan stepped out, his face shadowed but unmistakable. "Monroe," he barked, slamming the door. "What the hell's this? You sneaking off with him?" Jake stiffened but didn't back down. "Go home, Ryan. This doesn't concern you." "Doesn't concern me." Ryan's laugh was harsh, cutting. "You're the quarterback. You're supposed to lead, not play sides with him." The word dripped with venom, and Eli felt it like a punch. "Enough," Jake snapped, stepping in front of Eli. "You don't get to talk about him like that. Not anymore." Ryan's eyes narrowed, his fists clenching. For a moment, Eli thought he'd swing, but Ryan just spat on the ground and stalked back to his truck. "You're both done," he said over his shoulder. "Wait till Coach hears about this." The truck peeled out, leaving dust and silence in its wake. Eli's stomach churned. "He's going to make this worse," he said, his voice low. "For both of us." Jake turned to him, his expression fierce. "Let him try. I meant what I said. Eli, I'm in this with you." He reached out, his hand brushing Eli's arm, the touch electric despite the layers of their jackets. "But we need a plan. The team's fracturing, and Callahan's not going to budge unless we make him." Eli nodded, his mind racing. Jake's touch, his words, his defiancy was more than he'd dared hope for. But Ryan's threat loomed large, and Mill Creek wasn't a place that forgave easily. "What do we do?" Eli asked. Jake's eyes gleamed with determination. "We talk to the team. Not all of them are like Ryan. Some of them, they're just scared. Like I was. We show them who you are, who we are." The next morning, Eli and Jake stood outside the locker room before practice, the air thick with tension. Jake had texted a few of the Geissens they trusted, like Marcus, the running back who'd never cared much for drama, and Tyler, the kicker who'd always been quiet but fair. The plan was simple: talk, be honest, and hope enough of them listened. Inside, the locker room was a pressure cooker. Ryan stood in the corner, arms crossed, his glare daring anyone to challenge him. But Marcus stepped forward first, his voice calm but firm. "Eli's one of us," he said. "Always has been. You bench him. You're benching the heart of this team." Tyler nodded, his usual shyness gone. "He's caught every clutch pass this season. You really think we're better without him?" The room shifted, murmurs rippling through the team. Not everyone spoke up. Some, like Ryan, stayed silent. Their faces hard, but enough did. Enough to make Eli's chest loosen. Just a fraction. Jake caught his eye, a small smile tugging at his lips. And for the first time in days, Eli felt like he could breathe. But Coach Callahan's voice cut through the moment like a blade. Enough of this, he barked, striding in. Carter's out. That's final. We've got a game in 2 days. And I'm not risking it on this circus. Jake stepped forward, his voice steady. You're wrong, coach. And we're going to prove it. The locker room fell silent. Coach Callahan's words hanging like a guillotine. Eli felt the eyes of his teammates on him. Some curious, some hostile, but most uncertain, caught in the crossfire of loyalty and fear. Jake's defiance burned bright. But Eli knew this wasn't just about words. Anna Maria, it was about action. About forcing the team, the coach, the town to see him as more than a headline. Callahan's face reddened, his jaw tight. You're out of line, Monroe, he said, pointing a finger at Jake. You think you run this team. Sit down or you're benched too. Jake didn't flinch. If Eli's out, I'm out, he said, his voice carrying a quiet power that made the room still. You want to lose your quarterback 2 days before the regional championship. A murmur ran through the team, shock mingling with unease. Eli's heart stuttered. Jake was risking everything: his captaincy, his scholarship prospects, his future for him. The weight of it was almost too much. But it also sparked something in Eli. A flicker of the fire he'd felt on the field before all this. Monroe, you're pushing it, Callahan growled. But there was a crack in his usual ironclad tone. He glanced at the team, sensing the shift. Marcus stepped up beside Jake, his massive frame a silent vote of support. Tyler followed. Then Diego, the cornerback who'd always been more about plays than politics. For players. Then 5, standing with Jake, their eyes daring Callahan to push back. Eli's throat burned. He wanted to speak, to thank them, but the words wouldn't come. Instead, he met Jake's gaze, and the look they shared said enough. This wasn't just about him, Anna Maria, it was about the team, about what they stood for. Callahan threw up his hands. Fine. You want to play this game. Carter's back in 4 now. But one misstep, and you're all done. He stormed out, leaving the team in a charged silence. Marcus clapped Eli on the shoulder. We got you, man, he said, his grin wide but genuine. Let's show him what we're made of. Practice that day was electric. Eli ran routes with a ferocity he hadn't felt in weeks, catching every pass Jake threw with precision that silenced even Ryan's glares. The team wasn't whole, not yet, but it was a start. Off the field, though, Mill Creek was another story. Word of Eli's return spread fast, and by evening, the town was buzzing. Social media lit up with #SupportEli and bench the bigots clashing with uglier ones Eli tried not to read. At home, Eli's parents were quiet, their support cautious but present. His mom hugged him, her eyes wet. We're proud of you, Eli, she said softly. But be careful. This town, it doesn't forget. His dad just nodded, his silence louder than words. Eli understood they loved him, but they were scared, too. That night, Jake texted him, meet me at the diner. 9 p.m. The old diner on Route 17 was a safe haven, a place where they'd spent countless nights over fries and milkshakes, talking about everything and nothing. Eli arrived first, sliding into their usual booth, the neon glow of the jukebox casting shadows on his hands. Jake walked in, his Letterman jacket slung over one shoulder, his expression softer than usual. "You were incredible today," he said, sliding in across from Eli. "Like you never left." Eli managed a smile. Felt good. Felt right. He paused, his fingers tracing the edge of the table. "Why were you doing this, Jake? You could have stayed out of it. Kept your head down." Jake leaned forward, his voice low. "Because it's you, Eli. Because He stopped, his eyes searching Eli's, and the air between them crackled. "Because I care about you. More than I've ever said." Eli's breath hitched. The diner, the hum of the jukebox, the world outside Deed all faded. "Jake," he started, but the words caught, tangled in years of longing and fear. Before he could finish, Jake's hand reached across the table, brushing against his. It wasn't a handshake, wasn't casual. It was deliberate, warm, and it set Eli's heart racing. "I'm not good at this," Jake said, his voice rough with emotion. "But I'm done hiding. I don't know what this means yet, but I know I'm not letting you go through this alone. Not anymore." Eli's eyes stung, but he didn't look away. For the first time, he let himself hope not just for the team, but for something more, something he'd never dared name. But before he could respond, his phone buzzed, a notification lighting up the screen. A post from Ryan, tagged with the team's hashtag, "Traders don't win championships." The moment shattered. Eli's jaw tightened, and Jake's hand pulled back, his expression darkening. "He's not going to stop," Eli said quietly. "And he's not alone." Jake's eyes narrowed. "Then we fight harder. Tomorrow's practices show them who we are. Together." The next morning's practice was a battlefield, not of plays, but of loyalties. Eli felt the weight of every stare as he laced up his cleats. The locker room split between those who nodded in quiet support and those who followed Ryan's lead, their silence sharper than any insult. Jake stood by Eli's side, his presence a shield. But even he couldn't block the undercurrent of tension rippling through the team. On the field, Coach Callahan ran drills with a scowl, his whistle blast sharper than usual. Eli poured everything into his routes, his catches clean, his speed relentless. He wasn't just playing for himself anymore, was playing for Jake, for Marcus, for the teammates who'd stood up for him. Every sprint was a defiance, every catch a statement, "I belong here." But Ryan wasn't backing down. During a scrimmage, he slammed into Eli harder than necessary, his shoulder driving into Eli's ribs. The hit sent Eli sprawling, the air knocked out of him. The whistle didn't blow. Ryan loomed over him, his voice low. "You're not wanted here, Carter. Quit while you're ahead." Jake was there in an instant, shoving Ryan back. "Touch him again, and you're done," he said, his voice a low growl. The team froze, the air thick with the threat of a fight. Callahan finally blew the whistle, barking at them to break it up. But the damage was done. The team was a powder keg, and Ryan was holding the match. After practice, Eli sat on the bleachers, his ribs aching, his mind racing. Jake joined him, his face etched with worry. "You okay?" he asked, his voice soft. Eli nodded, though the pain wasn't just physical. He's not going to stop. Jake. And he's got others with him. I heard them in the locker room. Half the team thinks I'm a liability. Jake's jaw clenched. They're wrong. And we'll prove it. Tomorrow's the championship. We win. And they'll see you're not the problem, you're the solution. Eli wanted to believe him. But doubt not at him. And if we lose, they'll blame me. You know they will. Jake's hand found his, hidden by the shadow of the bleachers. Then we make sure we don't lose, he said, his voice fierce. And no matter what, I'm with you. Got it. Eli's heart stuttered, the warmth of Jake's hand grounding him. Got it, he whispered. And for a moment, the world felt a little less heavy. That night, the town was alive with pre-game fever. Mill Creek's main street was decked out in the team's colors, banners waving under streetlights. But the buzz wasn't all celebratory. Eli overheard whispers at the gas station, parents questioning Callahan's decision to reinstate him, locals muttering about keeping the team pure. The weight of their judgment pressed down. But Jake's words echoed louder. I'm with you. The championship game arrived under a gray Ohio sky. The stands packed with fans. Their cheers a mix of hope and hostility. Eli felt every eye on him as he took the field, his jersey number 17 feeling like a target on his back. Jake called the first play, his voice steady, and Eli ran his route with everything he had. The ball sailed into his hands. A perfect catch. And the crowd roared, some in support, some in surprise. But Ryan's crew wasn't done. During a huddle, one of his linemen, Brett, muttered, "Don't pass to Carter. He'll choke." Jake shut it down fast, his eyes blazing. "You don't trust him. You don't trust me. We clear." The first half was brutal. The score tied. Every play a fight. Eli caught pass after pass, his body screaming, but his focus razor sharp. At halftime, Callahan pulled him aside. "You're proving me wrong, Carter," he said gruffly. "Don't make me regret this." Eli nodded, too focused to care about the grudging approval. In the locker room, Jake rallied the team, his voice cutting through the tension. "This isn't just about a trophy," he said. "It's about who we are. We play for each other, not for the noise out there. Eli's one of us. Always has been." Marcus and Tyler nodded, and even a few of Ryan's guys looked less hostile. But Ryan himself stayed silent, his eyes cold. Eli knew this wasn't over, not yet. The second half started with a fumble, the ball slipping from Eli's hands after a vicious hit. The crowd groaned, and Ryan's smirk was unmistakable. Eli's stomach twisted, but Jake was there, pulling him up. "You've got this," he said, his hand lingering on Eli's shoulder. "Next play." Eli nodded, channeling the doubt into fire. The next drive, he caught a long pass, sprinting 40 yards for a touchdown. The crowd erupted, and for the first time, Eli heard his name chanted not with hate, but with pride. The touchdown shifted something in the air, the crowd's chants swelling with a mix of awe and disbelief. Eli stood in the end zone, chest heaving, the ball still clutched in his hands. For a moment, he wasn't the outcast, the distraction. He was Eli Carter, the kid who'd carried Mill Creek High to victory time and again. Jake sprinted over, his grin wide, and pulled Eli into a quick, Fierce hug. "That's my guy?" he said, his voice low enough for only Eli to hear. The words hit harder than the touchdown, warming Eli's chest in a way the crowd's cheers never could. But the game wasn't over. The score was close, 21-17, with Mill Creek trailing as the fourth quarter ticked down. Ryan's crew grew bolder. Their hit sloppier, their glare sharper. During a play, Brett clipped Eli's ankle, sending him stumbling. No flag was thrown, and Ryan's laugh echoed from the sidelines. Eli gritted his teeth, refusing to give them the satisfaction of seeing him falter. Jake called a timeout, his eyes scanning the team. "We're better than this," he said, his voice cutting through the huddle's tension. "Eli's out there giving everything. You either play with him or you're playing against us all." His gaze locked on Ryan, who looked away, his jaw tight. The huddle broke, and Eli felt a shift. Some of Ryan's guys hesitated, their loyalty wavering. The next drive was make or break. Jake dropped back, his eyes finding Eli across the field. The defense was tight, but Eli broke free, his legs burning as he sprinted downfield. The ball arced through the air, a perfect spiral, and Eli leaped, snatching it from the hands of a defender. He hit the ground running, dodging tackles, his focus singular, the end zone. 10 yards. 5. A final dive, and he was over the line. Touchdown. The crowd exploded, the scoreboard flashing 24-21. Eli lay on the turf, gasping, as Jake and Marcus hauled him up, their cheers drowning out the world. Even Tyler, usually reserved, was shouting, his fist pumping the air. But Ryan stood apart, his face unreadable, and Eli knew the victory wasn't complete. Not yet. In the locker room, the team was a mix of elation and exhaustion. Jake's speech had cracked the wall, and a few of Ryan's guys clapped Eli on the back, their nods grudging but real. Coach Callahan approached, his expression softer than Eli had ever seen. "Good game, Carter," he said. "You earned your spot tonight." Eli nodded, too tired to speak, but the words meant more than he'd expected. He glanced at Jake, who was watching him with a quiet pride that made Eli's heart skip. They hadn't just won the game, they'd won something bigger, something that felt like a step toward acceptance. But outside, the town was still divided. Eli's phone buzzed with notifications, supportive messages from strangers, hateful ones from locals. A post from a local news blog called the win controversial, and Eli's stomach sank. He showed it to Jake as they left the stadium, the night air cold against their sweat-soaked skin. "They'll come around," Jake said, his voice firm. "Or they won't. But we're not stopping." Eli wanted to believe him, but the weight of the town's judgment was heavy. They walked to Jake's truck, the parking lot nearly empty, and Eli stopped short when Jake turned to him, his eyes intense. "I meant what I said at the diner," Jake said. "I'm not just fighting for the team. I'm fighting for us." Eli's breath caught. "Us?" he asked, the word barely a whisper. Jake stepped closer, his hand brushing Eli's cheek. Tentative but sure. "Yeah. Us." Before Eli could process, Jake leaned in, his lips meeting Eli's in a kiss that was soft, urgent, and everything Eli had never dared hope for. The world fell away, the town, the team, the hate, and for that moment, it was just them, under the stars, unafraid. The kiss ended too soon. But Jake didn't pull away. I don't know how to do this, he admitted, his voice shaky. But I want to. With you. Eli's eyes burned, but he smiled, his hand finding Jake's. Then we figure it out. Together. The next morning, the fallout began. Ryan had posted a video online. A grainy clip of Eli and Jake's kiss, captured from a distance. The caption, "This is what's ruining our team." Comments poured in. Some supportive, most vicious. Eli's parents called, their voices strained, asking him to come home. The school principal emailed, requesting a meeting. Even Callahan texted, warning Eli to keep it low-key. Jake, though, was unshaken. We're not hiding, he said, his hand squeezing Eli's as they sat in the diner again. The same booth now feeling like a fortress. We faced this head-on. Eli nodded, his resolve hardening. The game had been a victory, but this was the real fight. The diner's neon glow felt like a shield, but Eli knew it couldn't protect them forever. Ryan's video had spread like wildfire, igniting Mill Creek's simmering tensions. By morning, the school's hallways buzzed with whispers, and Eli felt every stare like a needle. Jake walked beside him, his jaw set, his presence a quiet promise, we're in this together. At the principal's office, Mrs. Hargrove sat behind her desk, her face a mask of practiced neutrality. Eli. Jake. She began. This situation is causing a stir. Parents are calling. The board's concerned about the team's image. Her eyes flicked to Eli. We support you, but we need to maintain order. Eli's stomach twisted. Support. The word felt hollow. A polite way to say conform or else. What does that mean? He asked, his voice steady despite the anger simmering beneath. Hargrove sighed. It means discretion. No public displays. No fueling the fire. The championship win bought you some goodwill, but it's fragile. Jake leaned forward, his voice sharp. So we're supposed to hide. Pretend we're not who we are. That's not support hat's control. Hargrove's lips thinned, but she didn't argue. Just keep it professional. For the team's sake. The meeting ended with a warning, one more incident. And there'd be consequences. Outside, Eli's hands shook as he zipped up his jacket. They're not going to let this go, he said. The town, the Schofield keep pushing until we break. Jake grabbed his arm, his eyes fierce. We don't break. We fight smarter. He pulled out his phone, showing Eli a group chat with Marcus, Tyler, and a few others. The team's not all against us. We rally them. We change the narrative. That afternoon, Jake organized a meeting at the quarry. Just the players who'd stood by Eli during the game. Marcus brought Diego and Tyler. And even Sarah, the team manager who'd been quietly supportive, showed up. The group sat on the rocky outcrop, the quarry's still water reflecting the fading light. We're not just a team, Jake said, his voice carrying the same fire he'd had on the field. We're a family. And family doesn't turn its back on one of its own. Eli's one of us. And anyone who can't handle that doesn't belong here. Marcus nodded. Ryan's stirring up trouble. But he's losing ground. Half the guys are sick of his crap. They just need a push. Sarah spoke up, her voice quiet but firm. The town's watching. If we show them Eli's not the problem, that he's the heart of this team, they'll have to listen. We could do something big. Something public. Eli's chest tightened. Like what? He asked, hope and fear warring inside him. Sarah smiled. A statement. At the pep rally tomorrow. The whole town will be there. We show them what this team's really about. The idea was bold, risky, and terrifying. But as Eli looked at Jake, at Marcus, at the others, he felt a spark of possibility. They spent the evening planning, their voices echoing off the quarry walls. A mix of strategy and defiance. By the time they left, Eli felt lighter, like the weight of the town's judgment wasn't his alone to carry anymore. The pep rally was a sea of noise and color. The gym packed with students, parents, and locals waving Mill Creek's blue and gold. Eli stood with the team, his heart pounding as the crowd cheered for the championship win. Jake, as captain, was set to speak, and Eli knew this was the moment. Jake took the mic, his voice steady but charged. This team isn't just about winning games, he said, his eyes sweeping the crowd. It's about standing up for what's right. Eli Carter's the best damn receiver we've got, and he's our brother. Anyone who's got a problem with him has a problem with all of us. The gym went quiet. Then erupted some cheers, some boos. But the team stood united behind Jake, their faces resolute. Eli stepped forward, his voice shaking but clear. I'm not here to cause trouble, he said. I'm here to play, to fight for this team, for this town. If you can't accept me, that's your loss. Marcus raised his fist, and Tyler followed. Then Diego, Sarah, and half the team. The crowd's reaction was mixed, but the message was clear: Eli wasn't alone. Jake's hand brushed his, a fleeting touch that grounded him in the chaos. That night, the video of the rally went viral, shared by supporters and critics alike. Eli's phone buzzed with messages, some hateful, but many, so many, filled with pride, with gratitude. Strangers from across the country sent words of encouragement, calling him brave, calling the team heroes. For the first time, Eli felt like he was part of something bigger than Mill Creek, something that could change hearts beyond this small town. But Ryan wasn't done. A new post appeared, a call to take back the team. Eli knew the fight was far from over, but with Jake and the others by his side, he was ready. The pep rally's echo lingered, but so did Ryan's venom. His latest post had rallied a small but loud group of players and parents, their comments painting Eli as the team's downfall, Jake as a traitor. By Monday, the school was a powder keg, flyers with slurs appearing in lockers, whispers following Eli like shadows. He walked to class with his head high, but each step felt heavier, the weight of hate pressing against the fragile shield of his teammates' support. Jake was relentless, checking in between classes. His text a lifeline: "You good? We're not backing down." But even Jake's fire couldn't burn away the growing tension. At practice, Ryan's crew was bolder, their tackles harder, their words sharper. Coach Callahan watched with a grim expression, his silence deafening. Eli caught passes, ran routes, but every play felt like a test. every glance a judgment. After practice, Marcus pulled Eli aside. "Ryan's planning something," he said, his voice low. "Heard him talking to Brett and a few others. They're pushing for a team vote to kick you out." Eli's stomach dropped. A vote? Callahan would allow that. Marcus shrugged, his face tight. "He's not stopping it. Says it's team business. But we've got numbers. Eli. Me. Tyler. Diego. Sarah, half the team's with you. Jake's making sure of it." That night, Eli and Jake met at the quarry again. The stars above a stark contrast to the chaos below. Jake's face was drawn, his usual confidence frayed. "Ryan's got about 10 guys," he said. "They're calling it a team purity vote. It's bull, but they're serious." Eli's hands clenched. "And if they win, I'm out for good." Jake's eyes flashed. "They won't win. I've been talking to the fence sitters. The guys who don't care about the drama but hate Ryan's bullying. We've got a shot." Eli nodded. "But fear not at him. This isn't just about the team anymore, is it?" he asked. "It's about the town, the school, everything." Jake stepped closer, his voice soft but fierce. "It's about us, too. About showing them we're not afraid. I meant what I said. Eli. I'm all in." His hand found Eli's, their fingers intertwining. And for a moment, the world felt steadier. The vote was set for the next day. After practice, the locker room was a pressure cooker. Every glance charged, every word measured. Ryan stood at the front, his voice loud, preaching about team unity and distractions. Eli's heart pounded, but he stood beside Jake, Marcus, and the others, their presence a wall against Ryan's words. When it was Jake's turn, he didn't hold back. "Eli's not a distraction," he said, his voice ringing. "He's our strength. You vote him out. You're voting out the guy who carried us to the championship. You're voting out courage, loyalty, heart. You're voting out what makes us a team." The room was silent, the air thick. One by one, hands went up. Marcus, Tyler, Diego, Sarah, then others. Hesitant at first, then firm. Ryan's face darkened as the count tipped against him. When it was over, Eli stayed. 14-10. The room erupted in cheers from Eli's side, while Ryan stormed out, his crew trailing. Callahan, who'd watched in silence, finally spoke. "Enough. Carter's in. Let's move on." It wasn't an apology, but it was enough for now. That night, Eli's parents hugged him, their relief palpable. "We're learning," his mom said, her voice thick. "We're trying, Eli." His dad squeezed his shoulder, a silent promise of support. It wasn't perfect, but it was a start. At the diner, Jake and Eli sat in their booth, the jukebox humming softly. "We did it," Jake said, his grin wide but tired. "You're still here." Eli smiled, his hand brushing Jake's under the table. "We're still here," he corrected. The kiss they'd shared felt like a lifetime ago, but its warmth lingered, a quiet promise of more to come. But the town wasn't done. A petition circulated, led by a group of parents. calling for Callahan's resignation for allowing division. Social media churned with debates, some praising the team's stand, others condemning it. Eli knew the fight was bigger than one vote, bigger than one game. But with Jake's hand in his, he felt ready for whatever came next. The petition gained traction, its signatures climbing as Mill Creek's divisions deepened. By week's end, the school board called an emergency meeting. The gym packed with parents, locals, and reporters. Eli stood at the back with Jake, Marcus, and Sarah, their shoulders touching, a silent vow to face this together. The air was thick with anticipation, every word from the board a potential spark. The board president, Mr. Larson, took the podium, his voice measured. We've heard concerns about the football team's recent events. We're here to address them. He outlined the petition's demands: Callahan's removal, a review of team policies, and, though unspoken, Eli's exclusion. The crowd murmured, some nodding, others shifting uncomfortably. Jake squeezed Eli's hand, his voice a whisper. We've got this. They can't ignore us now. Sarah had worked all night, rallying support online. Posts with "Stand with Eli" trended, bolstered by messages from across the country: athletes, activists, even a few NFL players. The team's pep rally speech had struck a chord, and now, strangers were rooting for them. It wasn't enough to sway the whole town, but it was enough to give Eli hope. When the floor opened for comments, Jake stepped forward, his voice steady. This team isn't broken, he said. We're stronger because of Eli, because of what we've faced together. You take him away. You take away our heart. You take away me. The crowd stirred, some clapping, others muttering. Eli's throat tightened as he took the mic, his hands shaking but his resolve firm. I didn't ask for this fight, he said, but I'm not backing down. I'm gay, and I'm a damn good athlete. This team stood by me, and I'll stand by them. If you want to tear us apart, that's on you. Marcus spoke next, then Tyler. Their words raw, powerful. Sarah presented a petition of their own, signed by students, alumni, and supporters nationwide. The board listened, their faces unreadable, but the crowd's energy shifted less hostile, more uncertain. The meeting ended with no decision, but Larson promised a resolution soon. Outside, Eli and Jake faced a swarm of reporters, their questions relentless. How does it feel to be at the center of this? One asked. Eli met Jake's eyes, drawing strength from him. It feels like fighting for what's right, Eli said. And I'm not fighting alone. The next week was a blur of practices, interviews, intense waiting. Callahan, under pressure, doubled down on his support, calling Eli essential in a rare press statement. The team trained harder, their bond tighter, Ryan's influence fading as more players rallied to Eli's side. Finally, the board ruled Callahan stayed. The team's roster was untouched, and a new inclusivity policy was proposed. It wasn't a full victory some parents vowed to fight on, but it was a step. Eli felt the weight lift, just enough to breathe. That night, at the quarry, Eli and Jake sat on the tailgate of Jake's truck, the stars bright above. We did it, Eli said, his voice soft. Not just for us, but for anyone else who comes after. Jake's smile was warm, his hand finding Eli's. You changed everything. Eli. You made us better. Eli leaned into him, their shoulders brushing. We changed it. Together. The kiss that followed was slow, certain, a promise forged in fire. Mill Creek wasn't perfect, and the fight wasn't over. But Eli knew they'd face it side by side. The team, the town, the world they'd shown what courage could do. And for Eli, that was enough. Years later, Eli would look back on that season as the one that redefined him not just as an athlete, but as a man who loved fiercely, fought bravely, and found a home in the heart of someone who'd stood by him when it mattered most. The scoreboard had faded, but the victory of that year, the victory of truth, of loyalty, of love would endure.